What's up, YouTube? Coming to today with another video, and today, guys, what the brand new is going to be where to Handtrap. Now, I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for everyone that walked up to me at the YCS and came to trivia. It was super fun. I really wanted to take a few days after the YCS to really just kind of put my thoughts together onto a new where to Handtrap and talk about the intricacies of where it's going to be most optimal to Handtrap. And if you haven't already noticed, I'm in a different space. I also have a brand new PC, so things are going to look a little different for the next couple of weeks. Just trying to get everything where I want it to be. Also, the computer itself is going to be a whole new challenge because I'm using older variants of a lot of my systems that I've already been using because I'm used to them. This kind of forced me to get the new ones, so I'm still getting used to a lot of the settings. So things might look a little choppy, a little weird, but hopefully soon the quality will be a lot better and I'm going to have a lot more opportunity to do a lot cooler things. But I appreciate y'all. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors over in Gem, Cloud, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, RW, MainPhaze, and Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so down below in the description. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so we can hit our goal at 30,000. Now, without further ado, let's hop right into where to Handtrap. Now, the first one I have for today is going to be Elf Note. Now, there's a lot of ways you can hit this deck, but if they're going first and you're on breakers, you might lose because they are going to double Omega hit you and Tinia hit you. So that's 3 cards out of your starter, which is really obnoxious when you're trying to break a board with negation on it. It's really hard to do. It's going to depend if you're playing against the branded variant or like the Fiendsmith variant, right, about where to Handtrap, but you'll kind of figure out pretty quick what you're playing against. DD Crow onto Engraver so you can't get Caesared. If your opponent like Theor realizes and dumps Medius, you want to hit that. The Power Patron Elf Note, when your opponent goes to Strelitzia, it doesn't target, but hitting the Elf Note out of the grave is really important so your opponent can't make like a Crystal Wing. This means that DD Crow and Nibiru last you a really long time because you can get rid of the ability to Crystal Wing, and then you can just like Nibiru when you want to, right? Which is really important. And then you can also hit the trap target. The trap has to revive to get the negate, so that's something that's really important. They also have to control a Synchro, so keep that in mind. But things like Call by the Grave are also really strong against Rhapsodia. You can also Bell Rhapsodia or Strelitzia. I really recommend doing this, again, so your opponent can't get to the Crystal Wing. And then Nibiru onto Engraver and Necroquip if they get that far, so you don't get Caesared. If your opponent is leading Lucina, I will Ash the Elf Note just because I want to make sure that my opponent doesn't get further, right? If they want to get to their Fortuna, for example, to get to Rhapsodia, I just don't want them to do that. But if they led with Welcome Home Pish, I'm just going to go ahead and Ash the Welcome Home. But if I see my opponent go like Lucina, they're just adding the Power Patron Elf Note. If they already have that, they'll grab Regina, which is just kind of what it is. But a lot of times what they're going to do is go Lucina, add the Power Patron, normal summon, and then go Strelitzia. So that's where I would always recommend just ashing the Elf Note Power Patron. But if they add Regina, then they already have this in hand. So you got to keep that in mind. But a lot of times they're just going to like open Welcome Home, and then you want to just go ahead and hit that. Valor Imperm onto Medius, of course, this card's crazy. If they go into the Power Patron Elf Note and then go into Librarian, you probably play against like the branded variant at the time. But if they go into Armades, then they're going to be on the Fiendsmith variant, so that's going to be really important to know because that's a light fiend and they'll go directly into Requiem and start comboing off. You can go ahead and Ghost Ogre the Omega, so your opponent can't just like loop you, which is really important. And then this is meaning that they didn't go for Crystal Wing, they just went for Omega. You can Ogre Welcome Home, you can Ogre Rhapsodia, you can hit Dawn Dragster because it has to lose levels to negate, so if they can't lose levels, they can't negate. And then additionally, the Dark Dragon, so that your opponent can't summon like the Fallen of Wildez from deck, right? So really important to know. Cool Tune is a deck that you really shouldn't be hand trapping. This is a board breaker deck in my opinion, unless they go like normal Rico, add and you droll them, that's like insane value, right? Because your opponent's in a really horrible spot. Beside that, though, any of the normal summon monsters, so your Q, your Mix, your Ricos, you can just Bell the effect as well as Ash, right? You can Valor Imperm them as well. Anything that you see hit the board, you just got to keep your opponent off of bodies. A lot of times they're going to see like 4 hand traps and then 1 starter. A lot of times you can just put your opponent in a very awkward scenario. A lot of things that I've seen is people going like Rotary Harmonia, right? And they just go directly into like Visas just because they have to. Sometimes you'll like Ash a Rico, and then your opponent is just like, well, this is really awkward because they have 3 in hand. They can summon like a Loudness War, right? But it doesn't really do anything. So there's definitely a lot of situations where this can make things fairly awkward on your opponent. A lot of times too, if you have like Valor Ash you're gonna like Veiler with a normal summon, they chain KTS and you just Ash the KTS, and a lot of times it's just like a pass turn, right? So definitely something else to keep in mind. Nibiru is really funny in the Brandon matchup because they will recover in MainPhaze 3, but you have the opportunity to use this card on both turns. Your opponent is just going to be spamming so many bodies. So this is something where Nibiru into this matchup is usually always live. And that's something that you want to really depend on like where you want to throw it. But a lot of times, again, you will almost always have an opportunity to Nibiru. You can DD Crow the effect of Dark Dragon Engrave when they try to like get rid of something because it has to get rid of all of the targets Engrave. So it's something that can just interrupt that completely because it just won't resolve, which is really important. You can use DD Crow and Bestials to get rid of follow up. You can hit the Quem target. DD Crow is another card that's always live. There's never a time when it's not. There's a lot of lists right now. They're playing Branded and Red. You can hit Branded and Red target. If your opponent has like an Albion Engrave, right, you can snipe that. So there are a couple things that you kind of have to, at the moment, decide what's the most important. But if you're more afraid of like the break potential, you can hit the Dark Dragon. But if you're more afraid of like a cart coming back to the board, my favorite DD Crow target is like when they go Clem, bring back the cart, and you hit the cart. A lot of times they're in a really weird spot because they like needed that, right? They need the Grand Guignol to be in rotation. So that's something that is really powerful to hit. You definitely want to save the Ogre for the Fallen Valbez, just the OG one where they go to pitch and then like super poly your board, right? You want to make sure that you have an answer for that. And then Veiler, Imperium, Ash, Bell onto Fallen Valbez. Make sure this card does not resolve to get to Ecclesia, especially a lot of people right now playing Dogmatica Ecclesia, so they can just go for the Fallen Virtuous. Some people are even playing Fleur de Lis, which is definitely interesting. Not super common, but I've seen it. Then the other one too is just Asher Bell onto Nadir Serpent. This card is just so overly broken for the deck. They just don't need to be able to resolve this card. As for Doom Z, DD Crow onto the target of change, which is usually destruction, add it back. Make sure that you DD Crow this out of the grave so you don't get Colossus. Then you can also just like Bell the second effective change. A lot of times there will be a chain block, but more often than not, this will be on the outside of the chain, so you can hit it with something like Bell. Most times with Nibiru, you will need like a Veiler or an Imperium to hit like the Regulus or the Verudrus, but this is going to be very viable in this matchup. Nibiru cooks this matchup. It's very good. Ash on the Raiders, and then Ogre or Harmonia onto Drastia. I saw one person go like Drastia equip Dragon Nails from deck, which was interesting, so it like couldn't die, right? But definitely not common, right? Harmonia, Ogre, onto Drastia, usually you're cooking. And then Veiler Imprim onto Alara. If they get to the Glyphario first, then sure, but a lot of times they're going to be leading the Alara to get to their Spell or Trap, and you just want to cut this off immediately. You also cut them off the ability to upgrade. So definitely going to be a lot of value in one hit. Striker is pretty straightforward. This is a deck that you also just kind of want a breaker for, but Ash or Bell is going to be your best option because the second effect of 0 hitting that is crazy. It's honestly so brutal. It leaves your opponent without a link and they can't even bring Ray back. So it's really bad for the striker player if this happens. DD Crow onto the Kagari target, Ashing, Engage. Obviously, if this is like something that you're really afraid of, it's like an opportune time. They have 3 spells engraved. Just being able to hit the Engage is really good. But I'm telling you, if you Ash or Bell with second effective 0 instead, when they pass to you and they get like they try to get the pop on you, it is so overly brutal just getting rid of the body without triggering Ray. And then Veiler Imprim onto 0. They can't tag out if they're already using the effect to search because it's only one effect per one turn. Then we got Mitsurugi. Again, not a great deck to hand trap, only in a very specific few places. If you have a Bestial or like DD Crow, when they tribute things like Mirakumo for cost, you can just go ahead and clear it while it's still attributed for cost, so it doesn't trigger in the graveyard. It'll be in a new location and then won't trigger. Then you have Ash or Bell for pre-prep. A lot of times, though, you want to save Ash if they go Habakiri. Habakiri tribute Saji. Saji effect, you Ash that. You don't Ash the Habakiri. You wait for Saji. You Ash the Saji. And then usually pretty bad for Veiler Imperium, but you can hit a rank 4 or you can hold Imperium for like Baguska. A lot of times this deck will put that up. So that's something that if you're afraid of that, you can wait. Or if they go for like Dugaris or Galen Granite and you don't want to play through something like Nibiru, right? You can go ahead and expend these now. But also, if your opponent has to lead like Aramasa, go ahead and hit one of those. You can always play into something like Prayer, but if they had Prayer, they probably would have did it in draw phase to play around and roll. So something else just to keep in mind. I do hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely let me know down below in the comment section. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Thank you.